Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about time. Now, as a lot of you may know, the year currently in game is 2953. And there's not a whole lot to question about that. A lot of people know that the game takes place 900 years in the future roughly. And so that's kind of not a huge deal, but as you guys may know, that this channel is a theory crafting channel, a fan fiction channel. We talk about different things. I react to stuff. We have a good time here. If you guys are interested in content like that, consider subscribing, hitting the like button, hitting the bell icon so you know when I post. And let's get into today's video. So today I wanted to talk about this kind of fan fiction that I wrote. And so I usually don't do a whole lot of this on this channel. I've done it a little bit with the mission content, and don't worry, that content is coming back. But this is not tied to any missions. This is just pure fan fiction, kind of pure theory crafting type stuff. Just something that I came up with out of the blue, and I figured I'd make a video about it because I thought it was pretty interesting. And I don't really know what spurred me thinking about this, but it's pretty interesting. So what we're talking about here is kind of time and how it's calculated, because as you all may know, there is a year, but it's not evenly represented in game, and right now that's not really a big deal. And so that's why I kind of wanted to come up with this fan fiction. Again, I don't know if CIG has come up with anything like this. I don't know all the lore in game. I kind of just had this idea, and so it's not really valuable information, but I want to know what you guys think about it. I will be posting a little bit about it on Spectrum. I will be posting this, sharing this on Reddit, because I want to know what you guys think about this idea. And again, you can think it's stupid and it's dumb and I shouldn't be doing stuff like this, but again, I made this channel because I'm just like this. There's nothing I can do about it. I love the game, and it inspires me to have crazy ideas, and there's no one I can share this stuff with because my friends don't play the game. So you guys are stuck with me. If you subscribe to this channel, you'll probably just get used to the fact that I have crazy ideas now and again. And so this is one of those crazy ideas. So what am I talking about here? I'm talking about something called segmented space-time. Okay, how essentially time is calculated in the verse. So the fan fiction, the lore that kind of sparks this idea is that in the year 2271, jump points were kind of, I don't want to say discovered, but categorized by an individual. I think his name is Croshaw or something like that. And the Croshaw system was named after him because he was the first one to coin jump points and all that. And we know from CIG that Stanton is getting its 3 jump points: Magnus, Terra, and Pyro. So this is kind of relevant to that, and I guess you could say that's kind of what sparked me thinking about this and coming up with this idea. But essentially what this is how time is calculated between systems. So as you may know, there's a difference. And so essentially in Croshaw's era, there was a big conversation around material time dilation. And so to kind of go back and explain what material time dilation is, well, we know what perceivable time dilation is. That's something that we see every day when you look up at the stars. in the night sky, you're not actually looking at what those stars actually look like, because it takes so long for the light to get to where you are. You're actually looking at them in the past. And so that's what perceivable time dilation is. It's these stars are so far away that the light from them can't get to you fast enough. So there's a lot of science behind that, and that's how you get to material time dilation, where material time dilation is essentially where time reacts differently around certain gravities. So you may see light behaving differently around a black hole, for instance, and that's how the whole concept of singularities, being at the center of a black hole, and all this other stuff, and it goes into more deep science that kind of complicates things. But essentially with jump points, and again, a jump point is essentially a gravity well. So when you're imagining a jump point, you're really thinking of, okay, there is a gravity well in this area. And I guess an easy way to explain it would be like how you have when you're a little kid, you use a magnifying glass to burn ants. I know not everyone was as psychotic as as me as a kid, but I feel like almost everyone did that. You go outside, you take a magnifying glass, and it amplifies the sun's beams and it burns the light. You could think of a jump point gate like that. You go to the jump point gate and it kind of amplifies your quantum drive. So the jump gate isn't actually generating the wormhole like travel. You are essentially the jump gate's just like focusing this gravity well, and you're using your quantum drive to go to this star system. So again, collapsing a jump point is essentially, I believe, I could be wrong about this, I believe how CIG describe it is that they use antimatter warheads to dissipate the gravity well, and so the jump point goes away. So jump points can naturally go away because scientists don't really understand that much about gravity wells, or how come gravity kind of accumulates in that area. And to kind of explain gravity wells again, a lot of it has to do, okay, so if you think about gravity wells in the way of the Big Bang, if gravity wells didn't exist and the Big Bang happened, particles would just keep going forever, and they wouldn't accumulate in certain places and create stars and make solar systems, and that all comes back to the Big Bang and talking about stuff like that. But basically, these gravity well areas, and again, I'm not a scientist, I don't know everything about this stuff, I could be explaining it wrong, but essentially how it works is that there are trace connections. The idea of how is there are trace connections between these stars after their formation, and these linkages in gravity are essentially what jump points are. Again, it's been a really long time since I've heard about this stuff from CIG and essentially how this stuff works. You would have to piece together different lore posts to actually figure it out. And I would love it if CIG came out and just made like a big post fully describing what jump points are in game and the whole science behind that. But you really do have to pick different concepts between different lore posts to get the full picture. But from my understanding, that's what jump points are, and that's the science behind them and how they work or whatever in lore. So essentially the idea that I had was that since the beginning, when quantum drives were first popularized, even before jump points were found out, is that pilots and intergalactic and interstellar cartographers, they essentially used their stopwatch in their ship. because this is another thing that is being added to every ship, is a stopwatch. And this is added because of racing, but it can be used in different things. So essentially, this is kind of like a lore explanation to why stopwatches are so popular and ubiquitous in every ship in the verse, is because interstellar cartographers started using this technology to essentially tell time. Because it was the constant. It was kind of the thing that, okay, a second is a second no matter where you are. And so when you're talking about, time dilation, counting time in seconds becomes crucial, because when you go to a jump point and you get to another star system, you're not perceivable to the star system that you came from. So to know how much time's passed in the star system that you came from, you literally just have to count seconds. And so that's essentially what interstellar cartographers started doing. And in Crowshaw's time, they kind of coined this as a segmented space-time. So I kind of wrote down a little sheet here. What I was thinking this all up last night, is that how segmented space-time works is that it doesn't use minutes and hours and days and months and years. It has its own units for this. So in segmented space-time, time is calculated in seconds, and then 100 seconds makes up 1 unit, and then 100 unit make up 1 base, and then 100 bases make up 1 mode, and then 100 mode make up 1 factor, and 100 factors make up 1 phase. Okay, so, and again, I'm gonna post this on Spectrum in a little bit more detail to see what you guys think about it. And you could essentially equate a unit as a minute, a base as an hour, a mode as a day, a factor as a month, and a phase as a year. Okay, so this all essentially started in 2271, when Crowshaw essentially said that yes, this area of space where ships are disappearing, this is a jump point. Okay, so when that happened, that was in the year 2271. So that is when interstellar cartographers said that segmented space-time began. So segmented space-time didn't begin when like the year 0, because there's multiple time scales in the star system universe. Let's just say that. So you have imperial time, which is the imperial timeline is BCE to AD, or ACE, before common time and after common time. And right now we're in the year 2022, so we're on the imperial time scale. So this timeline that you see in the Star Citizen wiki, that is the imperial timeline. Okay, so then segmented space-time, that whole timeline started in 2271, and ever since then there has been an atomic second counter that essentially is accurate to just like microseconds. So, and all spaceships essentially that are manufactured basically gets calibrated to that atomic clock. So that atomic clock started counting in 2271, and all spaceships are calibrated to that. And I kind of did a little bit of napkin math based on the units in segmented space-time, and counted up essentially all the seconds. Okay, so between 2271 and 2953, there's a roughly 650 182 years that has passed, which is like 53 trillion seconds. So that works out to be 5 phases. And again, in Spectrum, I will post all the math that I did for this. I could be wrong, even though I came up with this, it was very late at nighttime. But yeah, so essentially, in segmented space-time, the current year or the current phase is phase 5. So the way you would read it is, in space-time, you are in phase 5, factor 538 and mode 5384. So it's like star date year 5 or whatever. So the phase is the year, the factor is the month, the mode is the date. So your date would only include those 3 numbers. But since it's a multiple of 100, it's very easy to read. It gets more difficult when you actually start counting the seconds that are counting down. So most people don't do that. But the individuals that would use segmented space-time are deep space explorers, pilots maybe would use segmented space-time, people living in grim hex, interstellar cartographers would use segmented space-time. But everybody wouldn't use segmented space-time because they wouldn't need to. Again, if you were born on Houston and you spent your whole life working in Lawville, you wouldn't use segmented space-time. So I also kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the other time scales. Now, obviously, the UEE use imperial time, which is the timeline we're on now, 2953. But what is imperial time? Well, imperial time is Earth's timeline, and since the UEE is the United Empire of Earth, of course they use imperial time, which is essentially referencing the date on Earth. So everybody calculates their age in Earth years, even though you might not live on Earth. So again, if you're from Terra, you would have something called local time. Or if you were born on Houston, you would have something called local time. And your local time is how long it takes the planet that you live on to orbit around the star that the planet it exists in, and how long it takes that planet to rotate on its axis. Essentially, your day cycle and your year cycle makes up your local time calendar, and that is separate from imperial time. So realistically speaking, the time in game is different than the year, and I've seen a lot of people on Spectrum go, oh, this is the actual time in game, but it's realistic because Stanton isn't the solar system. So every planet would have different length days and different length years. So it's actually not even gamified. It's just that these planets have different cycles because they're not Earth. So their local time is based on their orbit around Stanton. And so you would have your age in local time, and then you would have your age in imperial time, which is Earth years. It's kind of like being from South Korea and having your Korean age and then having your international age. People who live in the UAE are kind of accustomed to that because you would have how old you are in years from the planet that you live on, and how old you are in imperial time, or how old you are on Earth years. So that's also another way how you can have, people who are 200 years old, because 200 years on their planet has passed, but it might only be like 90 years on Earth. And so that is not material time dilation. It's just the fact that these planets have different orbits again. So the next time scale is common time. Now, again, because the UEE is a I just got this video playing in the background. Because the UEE is intergalactic empire, you essentially have a situation where people still need to calculate things, and they calculate things using the imperial time scale, but without the date. And so common time is a time scale without the day, the week, the month, and the year. And the people who use these are, of course, people who do racing, because you essentially just count how many hours it took you to do something as the maximum thing on that time scale. So essentially the stopwatches that you see in ships today, they are essentially a common time clock, so you can calculate time. So the common time scale is seconds, minutes, and hours, and that's all you calculate. And you can't create a date using common time. Common time is just used for doing things. So you use common time to calculate how long it takes you to do something. But you wouldn't use common time to know what day it is, for instance. So of course you have imperial time, you have segmented space-time, and then you have common time. And so the clock in your ship has all three functions. And so this is kind of like the theory crafting gameplay thing that I'm suggesting, is essentially that your first clock would be your segmented space-time clock, or your SST clock, which will tell you what is the date, was the intergalactic date, or or the star date. And in Star Trek, again, you hear captain's log, star date, and then the star date after it. So segmented space-time is essentially like the star date from Star Trek. And so you would have that clock in your ship where it would tell you what the star date is. And the star date is all of the seconds that came after 2271. And so the star date is the same for everyone, no matter what star system that you're in. It is just counting down from that day. And then your second clock would be your trip counter, and that would be counting down in relation to SST, or segmented space-time. So essentially, you could know how much space-time has passed between star systems. So for instance, if you were on Microtech and you traveled to Pyro 3, you could set this timer so you could see how much time has elapsed from Microtech to Pyro 3. And this is a common function of many watches. They're called GMTs. They essentially let you have the ability to know what time it is in the country that you left versus the country that you've traveled to, because of time zones. And so your SST, your second SST clock, or your trip computer, would calculate the time difference in SST. So your trip clock, your second trip clock, would calculate the time difference in SST from the planet you left to the planet that you're going to. And your third trip clock would be an imperial scale trip clock. So it would calculate how much time has passed in the local time of the planet that you left. So for instance, if you left Microtech and went to Pyro 3, this clock would tell you what time it currently is on Microtech. So the difference between your second trip clock and your third trip clock is your second trip clock would tell you what time it is, how much time passed in segmented space-time. Your third trip clock would tell you what time it is on the planet that you left, or whatever you want to set it as. So for instance, if you left Houston and you went to Pyro 4, you could set it to what time it is on Houston, or if you left Microtech, you could set it to what time it is on Microtech. And then your fourth trip clock is the trip clock that is currently going to be in game in 3.18, and that is common time. That is your lap counter stopwatch that is used mostly for racing. So your time computer has 4 functions. Those 4 functions are the intergalactic date, or the SST, segmented space-time clock, your first trip computer, which tells you how much segmented space-time has passed, your second trip computer, which is a local time trip computer, and your fourth trip computer, which is it basically just a common time stopwatch. Okay, and yeah, that's basically kind of the fan fiction lore stuff that I came up with. I just for no reason started thinking about this stuff. But let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think CIG should use a time scale like segmented space-time? Do you guys want to know more about the science in Star Citizen? Would you like CIG to make more stuff like this? I think it's fascinating. I think it's cool thinking about this stuff. Again, Star Citizen is just a video game, but it's also kind of realistic, and so it can be fun to imagine stuff like this. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Again, I'm also going to post this on Spectrum to share with you guys. If you guys want the full breakdown, go check that out. You guys have been awesome, knocking it out of the park. That last video I posted got so many views, and I just want to say thank you to you guys for the support. You know, I don't do this because I want to, you know, make a career on YouTube. I just do this because I like the game, and I like having people to talk to about it. I probably spend way too much time on Spectrum, way too much time on Reddit, and I know those places can be toxic, but I love this community, and I love talking about the game with you guys. So if you guys also love this community and talking about the game and theory crafting and quote unquote imagining, I see nothing wrong with it. I think it's perfectly healthy to be into something, to have a hobby. But yeah, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe. And like I always say, I will see you guys in the next one. Salute.